found myself flying through a star-filled realm. And I was this huge expanded cloud of some sort. And I felt amazing. I felt, it was the most amazing feeling of peace and euphoria. And it was very, you're hearing this a lot now from near-death experiencers. They're talking about it. It was very sensual. It was very sexual. It was incredibly powerful. And what I came to believe, or I came to hear, was that the French they call the human orgasm la petite mort. They call it the little death. And I can completely understand that, because this feeling was just this exhilarating euphoria. Felt so happy to be home.
To being absolutely hopelessly in love, like a bride waiting for a bridegroom to come. It was so intimate and so deep, and I began chasing after the joy that I was feeling. I went from being in constant inner conflict to bliss, just bliss. The feeling I think that a lot of people that are looking for when they're doing drugs, I now completely, it had me. Like it was in me, and it was not ending.
It's like if you've been divorced and remarried, so like you married in your 20s when all of your body parts were at their best, being in front of God is like, you know, you meet this new guy, you're going to get married, and it's the first time he's going to see you naked, you know, and you've had 3 kids. It's not all the way it should be anymore. And, you know, but you've been able to disguise it pretty well and make it look like it is in clothing. And then there's that moment where you reveal all your flaws. And that's what it felt like. It felt like being naked in front of somebody for the first time. And so there I'm with God. We're going through these situations, and I know that there's going to be this opportunity to go deeper. And I'm trying to decide whether I want to do this with him or not, you know, and because I have to open completely up. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Well, all of a sudden, this light that was separate from me comes in through my toes, and it comes up through my legs. And it had this resonance in the key of G. I don't know why, but I remember hearing it later at church, just that key. And I'm like, that's the sound God makes. And I went up to the lady playing piano, and I'm like, will you play just G for me? And I touched it, and I was right back there with him. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, because he's got a resonance and a smell and all these different things. And so it's that energy's coming up, and it gets up into my middle, and it feels like when I was a little girl, I would wear dresses and I would spin in a circle so the skirt would flare out. That's what it felt like this, his love had kind of flared out on my insides as he got into my torso, and he was healing all of these hurts. And he's with me. It's almost like he's got his arm around me, and kind of like we're flying through these spirals, and we're going so fast. And we get to this spot where we just stop, like hitting the brick wall. And he says, do you see me? And I'm like, well, yeah, you're right here with me. Of course I see you. And he's like, no, do you see me? And he's pointing to this spot in my DNA, in my genetic code. He said, that's me. That's me. I'm in you. I built you. I'm in you. And he's like, people can deny it. You can deny your dad's your dad, but you can't change this. This is the truth. I'm in you, whether you believe in me or, you want a relationship with me or not. I'm there. You can't get away from me. I'm always there. I built you. And so I got really bitter, and all of those hurts that I had watched my kids go through suddenly were very real to me at that moment. And I said, if you're so great and there's all this love and you're in me and, and you're conspiring for me, what about this stuff? Why didn't you fix this? These were little kids. How could you not intervene on their behalf? What about all the little kids that die? Just all these tragedies. What are you doing up here? And he says, oh, dear one, you've completely misunderstood me. And so he shows me this scene. So when I actually got sick, when all this happened, my grandson was just 2. But we flash forward to when he's 5, and I'm sitting in bleachers next to my son, and I can see my grandson Cole running up and down the soccer field, and he's so alive, and the way the light's hitting his hair, it was just all of it was very tangible and real feeling. And my son looks at me and he says, Mom, I never can get through this. He says, Mom, I'm going to be the dad to him that I deserved. And I was like, oh, you're breaking the cycle. And you chose our generation to do it with. You're breaking that cycle that was so prevalent in my husband's family of brokenness. You're fixing that with my kids. And if we had to go through hardship, but it's fixed for every child that comes forward, after that, okay. And, it was painful, but at least I understand it now. And so we're there. And the funny thing is, when I got back, when Cole was 5, he actually did play soccer. I actually did sit on that bench next to my son, and he actually looked at me and said that. And it very much confirmed to me that, that I hadn't amplified that experience at all, that it was exactly as I'd remembered it. He had given me this message, and I should have pulled it up, but anyway, he'd given me this message, and he's like, I want you to share this. And I didn't. I held on to it. I didn't tell anybody about it for a really long time, because to me, it felt like, this creator that loved me so much had written me this love letter, and I wanted it just for me. And so I kept it in my heart, and I would pull it up and I would read it. And I'm trying to think of what that sensation is when you're first in love with somebody. Mm-hmm. You're all you can think about is them, and that mm-hmm. sort of thing. You're just enamored with them, right? Mm-hmm. I expected to feel that to God, to feel like that toward him. I did not expect for him to feel like that toward me.
Interesting.
And he adored me, and he knew me. He knew all of me. He knew all of my faults and my flaws and my secrets, and he adored me. I mean, he was just crazy about me. And it was just this kind of faint, sweet, I would say almost like maybe a little like vanilla sort of, it's hard to describe. It's something like I've never smelled before. It's kind of floral. It's kind of vanilla. I don't know. It was a sort of if I smelled it again, I'd be like, oh shoot, he's here somewhere,
Yeah.
I could definitely pick it out because I'd never smelled it before. But yeah, and when he's like in you, and you can feel his resonance like down to your bones. If you've ever been like near an explosion or something, you know how you feel that concussion. I knit you. I put breath in you. I'm coded in every cell. Every nanosecond of time falls in step as I will it so. I am in you. I'm in you. I'm all. Even when you perceive nothing, still I am. As I tell you this here and now, pressing my truth into your breast, your very heart presses it further in.
Well, one of the things that I know in letters and audio cassettes people have sent me, that probably the second emotion after fear is anger, and that there is a pattern in the people who feel that their will has been violated, that they've been raped, or there's a kind of a syndrome there. I think it's also interesting that there are several men that have corresponded and I have interviewed and talked with who you were talking about will and versus violation or will, or those who felt like that they had consciously acquiesced to do something versus those who felt that they had no choice. Well, there is a couple of interesting twilight areas here that seems to involve both. And in men, one of these patterns that I've heard over and over again is where they feel in the beginning that they're having a sexual encounter with a pretty blonde woman or something. And they are happy and willfully involved in this action. And then you will hear them, it's one or two versions I've heard. They suddenly, the blonde woman who they thought they were in a sexual relationship with is suddenly replaced by either a gray that's floating above them because they feel no physical pressure, and or they suddenly see clearly whether the phenomenon releases this or there's something that the human mind and spirit forces through this wall. They see the tubes and the machines that are hooked up to their genitals. At that moment, they feel complete and total humiliation and rage.
I would like to say about the contact and abduction division that for the working purpose, I think you'd need to define what those things are. And an abduction is where someone is taken forcibly or against their will, and a contact is where you have an exchange of information where nobody is forced to do anything. It's easy to say the two things are not alike, and the same things can happen within one person's experience. Now, there are those who do think they have gone willingly once the intrusion is started, but if you remember how artificially and technologically easy it is for these people to change our moods and change our minds and change our even our sensory input from pain to pleasure, from fear to love, instantaneously, then we don't really know when we go by ourselves if we're going willingly or if we're going because we've been made to feel we're going willingly. So I tend to say if they don't take you anywhere under any conditions, you've had a contact. If they've taken you anywhere, you've had an abduction. Now, there are those who do think they have gone willingly once the intrusion is started, but if you remember how artificially and technologically easy it is for these people to change our moods and change our minds and change our even our sensory input from pain to pleasure, from fear to love, instantaneously, then we don't really know when we go by ourselves if we're going willingly or if we're going because we've been made to feel we're going willingly. So I tend to say if they don't take you anywhere under any conditions, you've had a contact. If they've taken you anywhere, you've had an abduction.